Hello everyone. We are into the final month to CAT 2019 and there are just a few days left. So it's very important that all of you understand what exactly you need to do in these last few weeks to CAT 2019. So in today's session, I'll be talking about what exactly and as an aspirant you need to do in the last few days to CAT 2019. And this session is brought to you by me, Nilanjan Dutta, a CAT 100 percentiler. So hope at the end of the session, a lot of you will have a lot more clarity on what exactly is needed from your preparation standpoint over the next few days and how you can improve your scores and percentiles over the next 2 weeks. So this is a brief introduction about myself, and as you know, I'm a CAT 100 percentiler and I'm one of the topmost educators on Unacademy and Unacademy Plus for the CAT and the MBA exam segment. So I'd like to take the opportunity to inform all of you about one of the most important courses on Unacademy Plus that is going on currently being conducted by me, which is the practice course for CAT 2019, which is also the ultimate score boost Unacademy Plus course intended to give your scores a plus 20-25 marks boost in each and every section, and this covers all the subjects, which means VRC, Quants and DILR, all three as part of the same course. So the sessions happen from 10:30 a.m. onwards on weekends, so including the next upcoming session is today itself, Sunday at 10:30 a.m. To be a part of these sessions, you need to be subscribed to Unacademy Plus, and you can use the discount code NilanjanDutta while subscribing. In the referral code section, you need to enter the code NilanjanDutta and the discounts will apply. So this is the weekend batch all the more, which means it is very useful for you guys to know how to solve more questions and sets in less time and master some of the option-based solving and smart guessing approaches. Also, you'll be getting access to the best of tips and tricks from experienced educators. All of this is part of just one course, and to be a part of it, you subscribe to Unacademy Plus. So here I'll be covering the entire DILR module, being a CAT and a DILR 100 percentiler. So how do you subscribe to Unacademy Plus and access my live classes? So you've got the following plans. The plans keep changing with time, but as of now it's as follows. You have the 1 month subscription, but the preferable ones are the 3 month subscription. This will cover you till CAT plus the ZAT related courses like ZAT decision making, or you can go for the 6 month subscription, which will cover you for CAT ZAT plus the GDPI. The most recommended and the most cheapest plan is the 12 month subscription on a per monthly basis, and this will cover you till CAT 20, which means all the CAT 20 aspirants. It's good if you can start early your preparations and go for a 12-month subscription. Remember, it doesn't matter which subscription plan you go for, as long as you use the discount code NilanjanDutta, you'll be getting each of these plans at an even more cheaper price than what is the prices quoted here. So make sure all of you are subscribing to Unacademy Plus immediately and using the discount code NilanjanDutta while subscribing. It's not just DILR, it also gives you access to the Quants Score Booster workshops, which are also happening in parallel, all of which is being conducted by me, a CAT 100 percentiler. So it's basically one subscription. Use the code NilanjanDutta and you get access to all my live classes spanning across the various areas. So some of you tend to get confused on how to use the discount code. So you have the following subscription options. So what you can do is select the subscription option. So let's say you select the 12 month, which is the most recommended, and the cheapest option on a per monthly basis. So here you have the referral code section where you enter your code. Remember, there's no space between Nilanjan and Dutta in your code. There should not be any space. You click on apply, it'll say the code is applied successfully and the discounts will apply. So do make sure all of you are subscribing to Unacademy Plus. Remember, these subscription options, and through this you can master the variety of approaches that I talk about in these sessions. So now we'll get started with section by section on what you need to do to score really well in CAT 2019. So let's start with the first section in CAT 2019, which is the verbal ability section. So in VARC, the major component is reading comprehension with approximately 24 out of the 34 questions in this section is from RCs. So what you do is practice at maybe 3 RCs on a daily basis from now until CAT. So practicing 3 RCs is very important, but what is more important is that when you're trying to solve an RC, do not just focus on whether you're getting 3 questions correct, 1 wrong, or 2 correct, 2 wrong. That is not supposed to be a focal point. What is more supposed to be a focal point is understanding where you're going wrong and so on, which is why make sure that you're focusing on the options during the mocks as well as the analysis. So unlike a quant or a DILR, what you usually find in the verbal ability section is that in the solutions they'll tell you that Y option A is incorrect, Y option B is incorrect, Y option D is incorrect, and then they'll tell you Y option C is correct. So understanding that is very important so that the next time a similar set of options come in an RC passage, you can easily solve the questions. Moreover, the biggest thing about RCs is that a lot of aspirants tend to complain about confusing options. So why are the options confusing in RCs? The reason is this, that most aspirants do not understand that which portion of the passage is important for answering that question. So that is where I always talk about on my Unacademy Plus channel, I always talk about the 30-70 rule. What is that? That only 30% of the passage is even relevant for answering all the 4 questions or 5 questions in that passage. So what most aspirants tend to make a mistake is they tend to be focused on reading the entire passage when it's not even necessary to read the entire passage, and thereby you can save a lot of your time as well as a lot of the confusion that you have between options. In fact, most of the options or questions can be answered because they are belonging to only 5-6 lines in the passage. The rest of the passage does not impact in answering those questions. All it does is it confuses you while answering those questions. So you can follow my RC hacks sessions where I talk about how you can effectively segregate all questions, identify which 5-6 lines to refer to for each of the questions. So another thing about RCs is in the first 1 minute of any RC, make sure that you've gone through all the questions and options before you start reading the passage, so that you do not end up wasting time on this 70% of the passage which is not relevant as far as answering questions. Remember, your objective is not to read the entire passage. It is to be able to maximize your marks or return in the given stipulated time. So make sure you're doing that as far as RCs. Also attempt passages with more questions. So attempt first passages with more questions, because remember, the more questions that are there in the passage, it is easier, quicker to do those passages. So ideally, if you look by time front, 3 question passages should be done in 7 minutes. 4 question passages should be done in 9 minutes. 5 question passages should be done in 10 minutes. 6 question passages should be done in 11 minutes. So that is the approximate time you can take in solving RC passages, but make sure the first 1 minute is spent in going through all the question options for the passage. And when you're practicing 3 RCs, make sure you're exposing yourself to diverse type of passages. The easiest way to do that is looking at passages from current or previous mocks. In verbal or grammar, again, it's very important to analyze your mock solutions, to analyze the trends of planted options for the serious options. Also, focus more on questions like odd one out, para completion, and para summary. Somebody wondering, why have I excluded para jumbles out, given that they are theta questions and there is no negative marking associated with them? The reason is, in case there are 5 sentences, that automatically means there is 5 factorial possibilities of arranging them, which means the chance of getting it right is only 1 by 120, which is less than 1%. And it doesn't make sense at all to fight for something where the chance of you getting it right is less than 1%. So it absolutely doesn't make sense to go for para jumbles. Only after you've solved all 30 questions in the VRT section can you afford to waste time on para jumbles. So first try to attempt at least the other 30 questions in the passage, and then only move into this area. So that is what is important as far as the VARC section. So with that is a broad overview of what you need to do for the VRC section. Next we move on to the Kwan section. So Kwan is the final section, but we'll discuss the Kwan section first before we move on to the Diala section. So in Kwan, what is important is that you become comfortable with quick calculations. To make sure becoming comfortable with quick calculations, and the other thing is identifying your Kwan's areas. So what you can do is go back and check your mocks dashboard. I'm sure most of you have gone through at least 15-20 mocks, if not more. So what is important is you go back to your dashboard and you look at which are those topics where you've underperformed. The easiest metric for that is there's a metric usually for return on time, which is like marks per minute and so on. So what this metric tells you is if you're devoting a certain amount of time, how much of return you're getting. So look at which are those areas where you're underperforming. For example, let's say somebody realizes that in PNC, the dashboard is showing that the marks per minute is very low. What does that mean? It simply means that PNC is an area where you avoid attempting questions until you've done all the other type of questions where your return on time is much more higher. So identify which are your quants area, which are in your absolutely weak zone based on your marks per minute parameter, and treat them as a lower priority. So always look at questions from your strong and moderate areas and try and attempt more of the questions from your strong and moderate area. That is also something where you are a lot more confident. So both in your mocks as well as in the actual day, try and attempt more questions from your strong and moderate areas. Don't try looking for easy questions. So this is something which I feel a lot of people making mistakes is, even if a question is from that absolutely weak area where they have a bad track record, they're trying to read the question, waste 2 minutes, trying to identify whether the question is easy or moderate or not, and that is where they end up wasting time. Please don't try looking for easy, moderate or difficult questions. Instead, go by what is your strengths, what are your strong and moderate areas, rather than what is the examiner's set level of difficulty. The other thing which I stress upon a lot in my Kwan Score Booster workshops is the concept of substituting the options, doing factors-based approaches, using approximation techniques, using figure approximation techniques, using freehand techniques, then using factors-based approaches and so on to basically mark the right answer in a lot of questions where the normal standard approach, the conventional approach might be involving very tedious calculations. Remember, your ultimate aim is to answer more questions in less time, and again in quants, you need to be looking at attempting 30 plus questions in 1 hour, which automatically means less than 2 minutes per question. So you cannot afford to be very slow while attempting. But again, when you're attempting, make sure you're attempting in linear sequence. Don't waste time trying to look for easy questions. Attempt in linear sequence. The only thing is, those questions, for example, which are in your very weak zone, you can eliminate them in the first round, and only after you're done with all the remaining 27, 28 questions, then only you can come back and look at that question. But make sure on an average, you're looking at a 2 minutes per question approach. In case the question is lengthy, always remember there will be a parallel safe time approach method that you can use to solve the questions quicker. You may be using the option based approach or some other shortcut and tricks, which is something which I stress upon a lot in the Quant Course workshops. So do make sure all of you attending them, it's part of the Unacademy Plus subscription where you have the discount code Nilanjan Dutta at your disposal. Krishnendu, if the question is just regarding which sentence to eliminate, if you need to enter which one to eliminate, for example, to eliminate A, those questions attempt. But if the question is asking you not to type in A, but to type in the sequence of BCD, like D, B, E, C, avoid such questions, Krishnendu. Yes, Jaskirat, you can shoot your doubt. Meanwhile, we are moving on to the DILR section, which is the make or break section in CAT over the last few years. And one of the reasons for this is there's been a lot of focus in the last few years on challenging DILR sets. Now, most people tend to get confused regarding challenging DILR sets because they don't understand how do they go about approaching such sets. But the best thing about challenging DILR sets is the more challenging DILR set is, the easier is the questions and options. So the more challenging the set, the easier the question options, which means it's easier to mark the right answers, which is why you might have seen a lot of these analysts of the last few years, DILR sections, have talked about how in every set, 2-3 questions are doable. So it's more than being able to solve the entire set, which is not very easy. It's easier to mark a few answers correctly without even requiring to solve the set, and that is where smart calculations, option-based approaches come in handy along with structured approaches. Somebody wondering why the option-based approach is handy? The reason is this. Often in challenging sets, if you're going with a structured approach, the risk is that you might get stuck somewhere in the set, and once you get stuck, we tend to waste a lot of time on that set, and that is where these option-based approaches can come in very, very handy. Also, the good thing about DILR is that you have 4 questions, and with each of them almost having 4 options in the set, and all of them is pertaining to the same data set which is provided in the set, which means all the question options are pertaining to the same data set, which means they are all related to one another. All the question options are related to one another, which automatically means you can always use them to your advantage. Also, what it means is one particular question, for example, often it might happen that question 3's answers options may help you answer question 1's answers, and so on. And sometimes it can also happen that even one right answer option or one wrong option can help you solve the entire set. So whenever you're getting stuck in the set, make sure going back to the options based approaches in conjunction with the structured approaches. The other thing is attempting sets in less than equal to 10 minutes approach is something we strictly follow in all my Unacademy Plus classes. I follow the less than equal to 10 minutes per set approach, which automatically means you're supposed to attempt 6+ sets in CAT 2019. In fact, there was an aspirant in CAT 2018 who previous year in CAT, he had just been able to attempt 3-4 sets and had a raw score of scale score of less than 20 in CAT. Whereas in CAT 2018, that is last year, he went on to attempt 7 sets using the approaches that we talked about, and he ended up with a 99.99 percentile in DILR. So that is how the difference happens if you start attempting more sets. But the main thing here is that it's not just about getting 3-4 sets correct, but what is important is in the remaining 3-4 sets, can you get 2-3 questions correct in each set, which automatically means, let's say something like 11 extra correct, 5 extra wrong, which translates to an extra plus 25 to 30 marks in your scores, which is a drastic increase to your scores. So that's about the DILR module. So any questions on DILR? So gentle reminder, the practice score for CAT 2019, all subjects. So this is the thing that is happening through the months of October and November. So those of you who even missed a few classes, make sure you're attending the remaining classes, because this is the ultimate Score Booster Unacademy Plus course. We are covering all the 3 sections, VRC, Quants and DILR. And I'm specifically looking at the DILR module as part of this course, along with the Quant Score Booster workshop as part of a separate course, all of which are accessible through a single Unacademy Plus CAT subscription. So do make sure all of you are staying subscribed to Unacademy Plus and are using the code NilanjanDutta while subscribing to the weekend batch. The next session starts in a while at Sunday at 10:30 a.m. It's accessible at unacademy.com/plus. So immediately go and subscribe as soon as possible. This is a weekend batch where we'll be stressing a lot on how you can solve 7 or 8 sets in DILR in 1 hour, how you can solve 30 plus quants questions in 1 hour. So this is what we'll be looking at, how to solve more questions and sets in less time, option-based approaches, smart guessing approaches, and the best of tips and tricks from CAT toppers and 100 percentilers like me. So this is your last chance for the DILR module. There's this course as well as another course which is on practicing important topics for DILR. Along with that, you also have the Quant Score Booster workshops available as part of the same course. So all of this is accessible part of the same Unacademy Plus subscription. Just use the code NilanjanDutta, and remember, in the discount code there is no space between Nilanjan and Dutta. Just type in that together and you're good to go. You have the following options. Preferably always stick to the 12-month, which is the most recommended, the cheapest plan as well on a per monthly basis. But this is the best one for CAT 20 aspirants. So all your juniors and those CAT 20 aspirants, go for a 12-month subscription. Otherwise, the second best option is the 3-month or the 6-month. The 6-month will cover you till the GDPI season. The 3-month will cover you for CAT plus the other OMETs, including ZAT, where we have the all-important decision-making course as part of the same subscription. But ideally, of course, the recommended one and the cheapest on a monthly basis would be the CAT 20 subscription, the 12-month subscription. Note, it doesn't matter if you go for a 1-month, 3-month, 12-month, or the 6-month subscription. Respect to which one you go for, you can use the discount code and you'll get it at an even more cheaper price than what I've mentioned. The prices do keep changing, however, with time. So make sure subscribing immediately as soon as possible. So a lot of you have this question, how to get the discount. So this is what you do. You select your subscription plan. So you select the 12-month subscription. Then here in the referral code section, you enter the code NilanjanDutta and you click on apply and it'll say referral code applied successfully, and then automatically the discount prices will reduce here and you're good to go. Click on continue and pay, and make sure that you're attending every session live. Because remember, not many days left for CAT 2019, so it's very important that you make the most of it for CAT 2019. So all of you, hope to see all of you in the next Unacademy Plus live classes. Make sure you subscribe. You can discount with Nilanjan Dutta, and do not procrastinate in being a part of the subscription. Because remember, the earlier you start, the easier it will be for your preparations. So hope to see all of you in the sessions for all the courses, be it the DILR, be it the Quants, be it the ZAP course, the GDPI courses, all of them. Hope to see all of you, and all the very best to all of you for CAT 2019. Another thing, make sure all of you are taking your mocks regularly, 2 mocks a week, and the mocks timings should be such that you're taking them preferably either in the 9 to 12 or 9:30 to 12:30 slot, or the 2 to 5 slot, based on whichever slot you've been assigned for CAT 2019. Try and take more mocks in those slots, because that will ensure that your body clock is automatically tuned to the time, to the way it's required on actual D-Day. So hope to see all of you subscribe. Remember, the prices keep changing, so subscribe as soon as possible. And use the discount code NilanjanDutta while subscribing. On that note, thank you everybody and happy learning.